welcome to Jez. How we doing, mate? You well?
Okay. Don't know if "well's" the right word today, but okay, thank you.
Okay,
Brilliant.
Well, So how's today been for you? I mean, obviously on the public face of it, it seems a bit quiet, but I imagine that's not necessarily how it's all been behind the scenes.
Yeah, it's just such a weird day, transfer deadline day. Like literally wake up this morning and there is probably 3 players that we cannot guarantee will be here at 11 o'clock tonight. And we know that to some degree that's in our control. But equally, if numbers get to a certain level, it might not be within our control. And then such is football, but we've worked really, really hard over a period of time to get a player to come to us. We'd agreed everything yesterday. Would have been a loan with an option to buy, would have been a really exciting one for us as a club. Player in like absolute prime, really top player in League One he would have been. And then we got completely and utterly blown out of the water by a club who lost their other target, jumped on our deal at the last minute, literally. And the player rang me this morning to say he's on the way to that club to do a medical. So, yeah, I suppose I'm sitting here at 9:25 and we haven't lost any of our players. And I'll talk to you a bit about that in a minute, despite some offers today. So that's brilliant. And that is great credit to the board because it's easy sometimes on deadline day to take what's offered. But I think it shows like their commitment to the club because it's well documented, isn't it? How much the club loses year on year, and it's the easiest way for owners not to have to put that money in is if they reclaim that back by selling players. But equally, we've got valuations that we believe are right for the players, and the board to hold firm with that and allow Michael to have as much ammunition as possible to give ourselves something to chase in the second half of the season. We know that's a real tough assignment, and we know it's going to be tough to catch people above us, but we don't want to give that up with 16 games to go. We want our supporters to know we're still fighting and we're still trying to chase something. So the fact that the board have been that supportive today in terms of not just taking offers that came in, that's been really positive. So what a long-winded answer that was. Sorry, I'll try and do better in my future answers, but that was, how can I say, bit of frustration at the start of the day, like frustration close to devastation, to be honest. That's how it felt like, because when you do so much work and you think you've got someone who could make a real difference, it's a gutter. Then some relief that we come out of the window stronger than we went in it. We've got some of our players out playing football that will in the long term benefit the club. We've brought 2 really experienced guys in terms of Sam and James. We haven't lost anybody who was a part of the starting 11, if you like. And we've got a very talented young man in Joe. So when you assess it overall, probably go to bed tonight, could have been a lot worse. And especially in the landscape that we suddenly find ourselves in, because I don't know about you guys and what you've been talking about for the last couple of hours, but League One seemed pretty mad at the start of the season. We get the benchmarking. We see where we are, 19th in the budget table. We see we're 2 million off 10th. We see we're 3.5 million off playoff positions. And then in January, suddenly you see £1 million transfers between clubs. Then you see £1 million transfers between clubs in the same league. And then it finishes off with a £2 million transfer and double-digit wages in terms of like 10, 12, 15,000 pound a week to players in League One. So being honest, that isn't director of football trying to cover his backside and play the martyr. That's just genuine, pretty scared of where League One's going as a whole, because it seems to me like just no financial controls whatsoever. And what felt like us being underdogs and fighting against the odds has almost become, just a financial landscape that's getting further and further and further away from reality, any level of sustainability, and making it more and more difficult for clubs like ourselves. But that's the challenge, and we'll wake up tomorrow morning and we'll work really hard to try and get things ready in the summer that gives us a chance again. But today's probably been a bit of mixed emotions, to be honest.
You've pretty much answered at least the second question, because I was going to ask about the climate in the transfer market. I mean, it's obviously been very, very different this transfer window to any of the others in League One. Is it something that you see continuing, or things like the football governance, etc.? Is it going to be a one-off, do you feel?
I think we'll all be dead by the time football governance comes into place. Like, I've just given up. I've given up on the authorities, guys. To be honest, I've given up. I just feel frustrated that we're in a competition that seems to me has little or any financial controls. It may sound crazy to say that there is some element of financial control in the Championship when you're only, in inverted commas, allowed to lose 39 million over every 3-year cycle. But at least that does create some level of constraint, because you can't do anything you want to do. And there has to be some balancing transactions and some level of planning in terms of what you can sell and what you can buy. In the reality, in League One, you can lose £100 million a year if you want to, if you've got owners with deep enough pockets who want to put that in. So, of course, no one will do that. But when you've got clubs losing the same level of money as their turnover, that's just ridiculous. And there's no constraint. There's no, from my perspective or what I see, there's no prospect of that changing very quickly. Of course, there's a little bit of change in terms of ownership not being able to put loans in and ownership having to put equity in, and maybe even that you're only allowed to spend 60% of equity. But I think we'd all agree, like, wages have just spiraled out of control in League One. There was taking Birmingham out of the equation. There was still 58% inflation on wages in League One from the first half of this season to last season. So wages have gone up by 58% across the league, excluding Birmingham. And that isn't taking into account what's happened in January. So for Lincoln City to have been in the same budget position this year as we were last year, it would have cost us 68% of our budget just to stand still. You know, wow. Last season, 7 clubs had a budget of less than 3 million. This year, 1, and they're like 20 grand under 3 million. So the landscape is difficult. And I'm not saying that for sympathy. I'm not saying that for effect. I'm saying that because I genuinely care about this football club, and we have to somehow keep trying to find a way of competing. And I know what we all want, and the supporters want, and we want it as well. We want to play good football. We want to win games. We want to compete at the top end of this league. But even where we are now, and probably people are not ecstatic about where we are now, but it's still like a massive +7, +8 on our budget position. So just for context, it is getting more and more difficult, and we've got to keep true to our beliefs. And maybe there's a little bit of change in policy where we bring someone like James Collins, because we just feel like the group needed that at the top end of the pitch. And I'll talk about him in more detail, but we won't be able to win an arms race here. We can't. We're not we're not a little bit away. We're like double, treble, quadruple our budget away from teams in the top echelons of this league. So we're just going to have to, what's the word, review, think about the strategy again. But we've got to find a way of signing players that have the potential to be good League One footballers, but aren't in their peak years. Because if they're in their peak years, they're not going for a bit more now. They're going for double and treble. And we've got to get the balance. We've got to get the right experience. We've got to have a playing style that helps them. But yeah, it's been sobering, being honest, in January. And look, the reality, the player that I'm going to mention that we've done so much work on, and it'd be unfair, of course, to name the player, and it'd be unfair, of course, to name the club he's gone to. But in the end, he was a player leaving a Championship club, and the League One club he's gone to can match his Championship wages. And we just can't do that. We just, even at our eyeballs out best offers, we're miles off that. So yeah, we've got a good group. We've got a really honest group. We've got a group definitely better than our position in the league for the budget. And we've added 2 really experienced players and really one very exciting young player. And we've got 15, 16 games to go out and keep fighting for the football club and doing our absolute best to finish as high as we can in the league and keep, we want in a good way the season to be alive for as long as possible in trying to chase clubs above us. And, despite the not best run, if you want, we're still only 5 points off 6th place. So the good thing about budgets, I suppose, and the good thing about wages is players might get paid double or treble what they were previously, but it doesn't make them twice or 3 times as good. And our players are pound for pound. I think we've got the best group in the league. I genuinely do, for what we pay. I think we've got really good, honest, hard-working players, and our job has been to try and add a couple of ingredients that the squad didn't have. We've definitely done that with Sam and James. Joe's exciting, and I hope that comes off, because that'd be great for us, for Forest, and for himself. But probably the headlines of the window are, up until 20 minutes ago when I sat on this chair, we hadn't lost anybody, and that's probably just as important.
That's what I was just going to ask quickly, because actually, since you came on, we've had at least 110 people additional join the stream. So just to clarify, as things are at the minute, you don't expect us to lose anybody in this window?
We haven't lost anybody yet.
Very good.
We've turned down 2 offers today for 2 different players.
Okay.
Two really serious offers as well, and that's great credit to the board, that they've backed the club, backed Michael, backed the fact that we want to keep fighting this season, and we don't want to signal to our supporters that the season's over. We know it's going to be hard to do what we want to do, but we want to keep chasing, and we want to keep fighting, and we want everybody to be with us. So great credit to the board that we have not sold our players anything other than the value that we would have for them. And I can't guarantee in the next 1.5 hours someone's not going to test us again with one of those 2 players. But we're doing our absolute best at this moment in time to make sure that no one leaves the football club unless it's absolutely at our value. And we want to make sure that people never see us as that, a club that you can come knocking in the last 10 minutes of a window and put a gun to our heads. And that comes from a relationship with the player, that comes from a relationship with the agent, that comes from good communication with both of those parties for a period of time. And then if clubs are speculative and try and do that, we're in a strong position because of the backing that we have from board. We might not be able to go and pay the wages others can, and probably don't want to be perfectly honest. And we certainly can't do the transfer fees that eye-watering, 2.5 million, stuff like that is just insane in this league. But what we have got is like so many genuine people here who care about the club, and therefore no one will leave our club without that being the right value.
Let's turn to the positives then, because as you say, we have come out of the transfer window relatively strong, signing 2 experienced players in Sam Lucas and James Collins. Do you want to talk to us about those 2 and the thought behind bringing those in?
Yeah, they're both different, even though they're both 34, and I'm aware that we're going to lose our model being an exception, aren't we, if we keep signing 34-year-olds. Sam's just a different one, isn't he? Like, you'd know him, I'm sure. I've got massive respect for Sam. I got to know him pretty well over the last 12 months. Met him a while back. I think I first started talking to him when he was at Stoke, and asked him if he thought this could ever be the final destination in his career. It was the first, or the start point, wasn't it? Even though I'm not sure Lincoln City gave him a great start in terms of releasing him twice by the age of 18. Helped with his resilience to get to where he got to. But Sam wanted to come back to Lincoln. He wanted to finish his career here. He's had an unbelievable career to play in the Premier League. Like, his quality, his experience, his knowledge, is first class. He's a really good guy. He's got a genuine affinity for the city and the football club. Had a similar one of these once upon a time at my previous club with a guy called Luke Chadwick, who everybody would know probably, who had left Cambridge at age of 14 to go to Man United, had played in massive games, won leagues, played in Champions League quarterfinals, but wanted to finish where he thought it should have started. And Sam was very, very similar. So good guy, great experience, top player, real quality, trained for the last couple of weeks. Can't guarantee you when he's going to start, when he's going to play, but he's ready to. There's no injury, there's no problem. It's just that he's had 8 games in the National League, and it's not quite maybe the intensity of what League One looks like. But yeah, I think Sam will show his value over the next 3 months, and hopefully, if things go well, even beyond, because I'm sure he's got a role to play at this football club, even beyond playing potentially. James is a different one, isn't it? Like, if I had £1 for everyone who says we need a proven centre forward who scores goals, I'd be rich and probably wouldn't have to have this stress of working. Like, I don't know that, of course. Like, I would love to turn down loads of really proven centre forwards with a goal scoring record. Like, we always want to look for those. There was an opportunity with James that came about. We know his agent. He had a couple of other offers that were going to be potential loans. And look, we probably, I don't know what the phrase is. I probably shouldn't say it, although it's after the watershed, but we were a little bit balls out, and we said, no, let's do this on an 18 months. And we were really front foot and really positive with James. And in doing that, we secured him because he wanted to be part of something. And I think it's difficult, when you get to the age of 34, 35 as a player he's played 700 games, he scored 200 goals, he's had 6 promotions. People start talking about, you'll add a lot to the group, you'll be really good for them off the pitch. He wants to contribute on the pitch. He trained every single day for Derby this season. He was available for every single fixture. So it's not like he sees himself as winding down. He sees himself with so much more to offer. And that resonated with us. So, of course, he's going to be a help for Fred, for Jovan, for Bailey, for Rob, for the younger strikers. Of course, he's going to be a help for the group because he's a really experienced centre forward with presence and like a nous and a knowledge to be able to score goals. But yeah, the other thing he's going to do for us is he's going to actually do the business on the pitch, we hope. So yeah, I think that was a really positive, bold statement from the club to do that early in the window when we really wanted to add some experience and know-how and proven goal-scoring ability to help alleviate some of the pressure from some of those young shoulders where it's hard to bear that pressure when the team's going through spells of not scoring.
Can I ask about Joe Gardner, obviously coming in on loan from Forest, a player that had a little bit of a rumour coming to us beforehand, but seems like he's a quite an exciting young player that's coming in. Was there maybe a half an eye on, is somebody potentially, could there be offers coming in for somebody that could potentially go, or is this a genuine sort of, we'll develop him and hopefully do what we've done for other players in the past, and he can add a lot to the club as well?
Yeah, so these interviews always become me thinking I'm just talking to you two guys. So then I'm really open, and then I forget there's 200 people listening, or however many more when you put it on different channels later.
Well, somebody did make the point that if we keep you on, then it just means that you won't be able to answer your phone. So if you want to stick around until 11 o'clock.
Yeah, I think they might have Liam's number as well. Joe's a good one for us. I'll tell you exactly what's happened with Joe, so you can see what happens sometimes in football. I first saw Joe play, not that it's about me, because Mark Tracy goes and watches loads of these games, but he first came to my attention, Joe. Forest played 2 under-21 games in the space of a couple of weeks at Meadow Lane at the start of the season before last, so August 23. And I watched the first game, it was against Middlesbrough. Young kid come on with about half an hour to go, quite liked him. And then 2 weeks later, they played Arsenal and this kid started. And I really, really liked him. And he played about 70 minutes. And that was Joe. So I registered that with Ginge at the time. And we tracked him and kept an eye on him. And Mark would have watched him on a number of occasions. We're aware of, obviously, we've got a pretty open relationship with Nottingham Forest, even though personnel have changed a little bit from when Brennan was here with Gary Brazil. It's now Ross Wilson and Craig Mulholland and Chris Brass and Chris McGuane and Andy Reid. So there's a few guys there that were in constant dialogue about potential players. The biggest thing that happened for us was Jack Moylan's injury. So that was the catalyst really to go from admiring Joe, actually probably thinking that'll be really interesting to see where he goes on his first loan. And we thought that might be League Two. There's some well-documented stuff in the press about clubs that were chasing him. We know we spoke to another couple of clubs. But once we knew the severity of Jack's injury that we feared on the moment it happened, really, and we knew he'd be out for the season, I spoke to then Joe's agent literally on that Sunday and Monday, explained that our interest has gone from admiring him to actually being really interested in bringing him on loan. We just think he's that little bit of an X-factor type player, can beat someone in a 1v1 in the middle of the pitch, can play as an 8, can play as a 10, has played as a little bit of like a false 9 for Forest when they played in the EFL trophy games. He did really, really well away to Carlisle. We watched all of those games. And then it was just a matter of, for me, being really, really dead honest with Nottingham Forest, because if their expectations was Joe was going to play every game and start every game, we wouldn't have done this. It wouldn't have been fair for anybody. We're really open and clear. We told them the system. We told them where we saw Joe playing. Maybe initially that might be more off the bench in terms of trying to chase a game. If we were trying to get a win from a drawing position or come back in a game. They were happy that we'd been so transparent and so honest. We got the opportunity to present to Joe, to his agent, and to the under-21s coach at Forest. We did that on the day of the Blackpool game. He stayed up in the afternoon, stayed for the game, took him in the boardroom, looked after him and his agent. He watched us play. And then the next day, Joe said that he was really keen to come, and Forest were really keen that we were going to provide him with a really good environment, They obviously know Chrissy Cohen as well, Forest, so that's a nice link for us there. The proximity from his home, he lives in Burton Joyce, so that's not too far. But just maybe the environment we would create and the opportunities that he would get, albeit they knew that there was no guarantees for, extensive playing time, but definitely an opportunity to earn that playing time, and everybody was happy. So it made sense for all three parties.
Wonderful. Thank you for that. Quick question from me about Dylan Duffy. Obviously, Dylan went on loan, then very quickly went on a permanent deal. What's the kind of the thinking behind that?
Yeah, it's an interesting one, isn't it? Because it's a bit rare, this. So first of all, look, we have a responsibility to our players sometimes to try and find them football if we can't do that here. And that's not criticising anybody, but you look at the minutes, Dylan's played 268 minutes this season, 900 minutes last season. He's been here 2 years now. Does this system of play 3-5-2 exactly suit him? Maybe not, but we hope that he could develop the defensive part of his game, because actually his attacking attributes massively suit this system of play, because he's quick, he's strong, he's powerful, he's direct, and he's got a wonderful left foot to cross the ball on the run. So the attacking part of this formation does suit him. Can he learn, and could he get better at some of that defensive side of the game that would make him what we would have thought like a perfect all-round wing-back? The answer has probably been no, being honest. And then we looked in this transfer window as potential options for loan. There was an earlier one that went away, and then Chesterfield came in really strongly. But at the time of coming in, they really wanted it to be a permanent, and we weren't so keen on that. Initially, we thought maybe a loan would be better for Dylan to come back. Then we investigated a little bit of what a buyback option might look like for us in the summer. So maybe he would go, and maybe we'd have a couple of windows where we would have an opportunity to do that. However, Chesterfield were very, very keen to do it on a permanent and put a very, very good contract in front of Dylan. So that would have been a better contract than he had it here at this club. And then when you look at everything, and we got to the deal that we got to, which I can't put numbers on it because that isn't fair. And unfortunately, whether it's right, wrong, or indifferent, well, no, nothing's disclosed. If we start disclosing one, there'd be no context to any disclosure. But it was like a very significant transfer fee for a player who hadn't been able to play football for us over a 2-year period, with a very, very sizable sell-on and the opportunity for us to match offers if clubs tried to buy him for a period of time. So when we took all of those things into account, we actually thought, do you know what, being right for Dylan is let him go and spread his wings and go and play for a team. I think Cookie will play in a way that's 4-2-3-1. Dylan will play high and wide. He joked with me, it was a bit like back to UCD days when he'd wait for the ball and they'd get it to him and he could run and cross it. And he said he got a bollocking for chasing back too much the other night. So I think he'll enjoy that. I think that'll bring the best out of him. And sometimes we have a responsibility, just what's the right thing for the player long term. And if the right thing for the player happens, mostly that culminates in also being the right thing for the football club. So yeah, that was the thinking. We're massively protected. We're well remunerated at the start, and Dylan gets a chance probably to go to a club where he'll play in his optimal position. He gets the best chance to showcase his talents, and then Lincoln either get a very, very, very sizable slice of what comes next if he's sold, or the opportunity to buy him back at a very discounted rate if we think that he's got a future here in a period of time. So yeah, we covered most bases, I think, with that deal, and that's why in the end the deal made sense for us.
Brilliant, thank you. I think we've got Charlie with a question, so I'll drop Ben out now and bring Charlie in. Charlie, you have a question for Jez? I'm aware we're getting close to the time as well, Jez, so yeah, apologies for that.
That's all right. I'll check my phone.
Please don't.
Yeah, put it away.
Evening, Jez. So we were just talking there, obviously, about Dylan Duffy starting out as a loan move, and obviously he wasn't the only person that we did loan out. Now, Rob Street and JJ McKiernan, at the start of the window, was it that we were actively looking for a loan out for those two, or was the kind of the offer of play time from the likes of Doncaster and obviously Burton just a little bit too good to kind of turn down once those came in?
Yeah, good question. We wanted an opportunity for them to play football. We think they're two talented young men. JJ probably gave us glimpses of what he's capable of, like he started the season in the team. If you remember back in August, Ethan Hamilton wasn't fit, Conor McGrandles wasn't fit, and yeah, we started the season, I think, first game away with Tom Bayliss and JJ as the 2 8s. So we think JJ's a really talented young boy, hasn't probably hit the ground running as well as he hoped or we hoped. And then his game time became more and more sporadic and more limited. He gave a bit of a showcase against Man City 21s as to what he can do. Obviously, that's a different type of game, but showed at least the talent as to why we brought him to the club in the first place. It's documented that he's on a long-term contract with us. So for JJ, we thought we were really, really keen for JJ to come play in League One. So if we hadn't found a League One loan for him, we would have waited for that opportunity. So the fact that Burton came in, we know Gary Bowyer, good guy, good manager, massive second half of the season for them with lots to fight for. We thought it'd be a really good loan for JJ. And he's never played in League One until this season. Like, people judge him so early, but he's had one season in the National League. He's had 28 games in League Two. And we sign him early because if we don't and we wait for him to go and have 50, 60, 80 games in League Two, in League One, he goes beyond us. So sometimes we have to back a judgment and make early decisions in careers and get them at the early part of their development curve. So I think 20 games in League One will teach us a lot about JJ, and he'll come back far, far better for that experience. With Rob, he's moved up to Lincoln. He's made a home up here. Doncaster's really close. They contacted us at the back end of December. We know Grant is a good guy. We know they're at the top end of the league fighting for promotion. The way they play like a little bit of like the Liverpool with Bobby Firmino as the false 9 and the 2 wide strikers making out to win runs. So Ironside or Billy Sharp will be the 9, and then they play with Molyneux one side, and the idea was Rob would play the other side. So when we look at his strengths, running in behind, his pace, his ability to run off the back of the top line, we thought it'd be a good fit. And yeah, we just wanted him to play football. Like, we haven't managed to get him enough minutes. That's the truth. There's been a lot of competition at the top end of the pitch. Everybody will have their own ideas of who should and who shouldn't be selected, but Rob just desperately needed a run of games and a big amount of football. And I spoke to him yesterday. It was brilliant. He scored a really, really good goal Saturday. I don't know if any of you have seen it. Proper finish, great run, good first touch, really drilled finish. I love the celebration. And for him, when he's such a good lad who works so hard every day, if you speak to Michael, any of the coaching staff, that lad's attitude on a day-to-day basis, even without football at the weekend with us all season, has been exemplary. So it was a brilliant moment for him to score. And he just said to me on the phone yesterday that getting the loan sorted so early rather than going into today worrying about it and meant he's been, up and running from the start of the month. They've got loads to play for. They've got a game on Thursday that I'll go and watch. They've got a big cup game against Palace, which is the team that he left and he came through as a young player. So it'll be, again, really beneficial for him. So we're pleased with both of those loans. I think it tells you a little bit about our squad now that our young players can go and get loans in top League Two clubs or clubs in League One and be playing and contributing.
Brilliant. Have we got time for one last question, Jez? Is that okay?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, of course.
Charlie, have you got one last question?
I have just a quick one on Paudie O'Connor. He's obviously reportedly been involved in a bid over the last week or two. May still be interested in there. Obviously, who knows on that one. His contract running out in the summer. A lot of people are drawing parallels between him and Regan Poole in terms of the potentially waiting to hold on. And God forbid, touch wood, it doesn't happen, but then lose on a free. If we did, would you be happy with having that value of him on the pitch for that last 6 months? Again, touch wood, it doesn't happen if he were to leave on a free.
So firstly, I'm happy with the value we get every single 90 minutes from Paudie. Like, he is an incredible guy. I'm going to go over time now just talking about Paudie because the respect I would have for him, the coaches would have, the club would have, would be unlimited. Like, he literally, I'll give you an example. Chesham away, get to the hotel at lunchtime. He's ill. He's whiter than your shirts, guys, and literally spends the afternoon in bed, doses himself up, gets on the pitch, heads and kicks the ball for us for an hour and a half, and then collapses again afterwards. He's had injuries. Like, literally, if it doesn't fall off and it's only hanging off, he still gets himself on the pitch and plays. And you could argue in the last year of a contract, when he's aware of speculation, it would be really, really easy for him to pull himself out of 1 or 2 games. There's games he's played in this year, let me tell you, that I don't know if many players would have played. That's the level of his physical commitment to this football club. And then when you look at what he actually has done as a defender over the last 2.5 years, where he started to where he's ended, or where he is now, sorry, ended is the wrong word. He's I think he's developed massively. He wins every first contact pretty much. He defends our box. If you look at the data for aerial dominance, he's right at the top. He'd be just one of the top defenders in this league. So let's remember how we got him. So we signed him because he ran down his contract at Bradford City so that he could leave on a free transfer, and then he could maximise his contract and pick the right club for himself. We have done and are continuing to do everything in our power to try and persuade Pordy that his future could be at Lincoln City beyond this summer. And we're in dialogue with him. And that's a really respectful process that will continue in private. You'd expect us to be in that process. But he just leads our football club as captain on and off the pitch. In my opinion, if I was a supporter of this club, exactly how I'd want a captain to represent my football club. He's intelligent, he's articulate, he's brave, he's honest, and he's really skilled at his job. And we'd love to keep him, but equally, we all have to be cognizant of what the wages look like in League One at this moment in time. And you have to respect that he's 27 years old. The next contract is really big for him, and he has to do the right thing for him and his family. And that doesn't take away any of his commitment for Lincoln City, any of his love for Lincoln City, but it's his profession. He's got a short profession, and the competition and the level of wages in this league at the minute probably makes it twice, 3 times as hard to secure players like Pordy as it even did with Regan previously. So long-winded answer, but I think it's really important on record that I talk about his commitment because it's unparalleled to what I've seen. He's first class on and off the pitch, leads the group on and off the pitch, and we'd love him to do that beyond the summer. But we know with Pordy that he'll give blood, he'll sweat, do everything for Lincoln City Football Club until the last minute of his last game. We hope that isn't this season. We hope it's beyond. But I know in answer to your question, we'll get more than value for him in the next 6 months. And let me say this, from the transfer fee we were offered, we will get more in-use value for Pordy than ever cashing in on him in this transfer window. Because take him out of our team for the next 16 games, I don't think we have as good a chance of achieving anything that we want to, or having a chance of achieving anything we want to. So, yeah, we would we'll fight to keep him. And, yeah, we've kept him beyond January. So we can fight to live another day.
Brilliant. Well, that's our time, Jez. So we'll let you go and turn your phone off and hide in a toilet. Take Liam's phone with you. Thank you very much for your time. Thank you for coming on and giving us some insight as well. We really appreciate it.
Appreciate you doing the show as always as well. Thanks, guys. Good job.
No worries. Thanks a lot. See you soon.
Bye.